Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody, and you're very welcome to this Licensing Subcommittee meeting of the 2nd of March 2023. And my first responsibility is the election of chair. I'm chair of the Licensing Committee and I'm deemed as the presiding person to deal with the election of chair. So could I please have a nomination for chair for this subcommittee meeting this morning? Thank you.
Yeah, nominate yourself, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kelsey and Councillor Bagwell to second. Thank you very much. So we will start with our housekeeping and I'll hand to our clerk, Mrs. Cutler, to take us through housekeeping. Thank you, Ms. Cutler.
Good morning. Please note that this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee, up to the exclusion of the public and press, is being recorded by the Council for live broadcast and will be published on the Council website for a minimum of 6 months. In order to ensure the meeting is managed effectively, please could everyone present follow these ground rules for speaking. Only speak when invited to by the chairman. State your name before you speak if you have not been introduced by name. Please ensure that you unmute yourself and always turn on the video function before speaking. Mute your microphone when you are not talking. After each party has made their representation, the chairman will ask each person in turn if they have any questions or comments. However, if at any point you would like to speak again, please use the raise your hand function at the top right of the screen. Finally, please ensure background noise is kept to a minimum and mobile phones and other devices are turned off or switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Cutler. So we go to apologies. So we have apologies from Councillor Sarah Anderson, and Councillor Kelsey has very kindly stepped up to our main body committee today. And we have as our reserve stepped up as Councillor Farquhar and Councillor Williams. Councillor Farquhar, are you with us? No, you're not. Anyway, Councillor Williams, thank you very much for attending as reserve. But as we have a full house, you are free to go, sir, unless you would like, of course, to stay and observe. And speaking of observing members, we also have Councillor Vicky Slade. I don't know if she's with us, is she? No, she's not yet. But
Yes, Chair, she is with us, but you won't be able to see her today. She can only listen in.
Okay, well, Councillor Slade, you're very welcome. I can't see you and I can't hear you, but just to let you know, you're very welcome and to observe today with regard to today's hearing. So we move then to item 3, declarations of interest. Councillor Bagwell, do you have any declarations of interest? And Councillor Kelsey, any declarations of interest?
None at all, Chair.
Thank you. And for completeness, I have no declarations of interest either. Thank you, Mrs. Cutler. On then to item 4, protocol for public speaking. Please note that the revised protocol for virtual meetings has been circulated with the agenda sheet at item 4. We move on then to the substantive, which is item 5. Southbourne Sports Club, 8 Deans Park Road, Bournemouth, BH5 2DA. An application for a review of the premises licence for the premises known as Southbourne Sports Club, 8 Deans Park Road, Bournemouth, BH5 2DA, has been submitted by Dorset Police. This matter is brought before the Licensing Subcommittee for determination today. I'll now introduce everyone. I'll firstly introduce myself. My name is Councillor Jude Butt. I'm chair of the Licensing Committee. I'm chair of this subcommittee for the purposes of today's hearing, and my ward is Creekmore, Hilborn and Waterloo. Councillor Bagwell, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Councillor Bagwell. My ward is Hamworthy. I'm a vice chair of licensing, and yeah, that's it.
Member of the subcommittee. Thank you very much, Councillor Bagwell. Councillor Kelsey.
Yeah, morning, Chair. It's Councillor Kelsey here, East Cliff and Springbourne Ward, and a member of this subcommittee today.
Thank you very much indeed. Sarah Rogers.
Good morning, Sarah Rogers, Senior Licensing Officer for BCP Council.
Thank you. And Sergeant Gareth Gosling. If everybody could put their videos on, please, when they speak, I'd appreciate that.
Good morning, Chair. Sergeant Gareth Gosling from Dorset Police Licensing Team.
Good morning, Sergeant Gosling. Good to see you. And Mr. Day.
Good morning, Chair. Philip Day from Lacey's Solicitors. I'm here to represent Mr. Cockabay, who I think is also here, and the club.
And we also have a Mr. Sims, who's observing from Lacey's. Is that correct?
He is observing on YouTube, Mum.
Okay, we're very welcome, Mr. Sims. And we have Mr. Cockabay.
Yeah, hello.
Good morning, Mr. Cockabay. And we have Joanne McNamara.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Joanne McNamara and I'm the legal advisor to the subcommittee today.
Thank you. And last and by no means least, we have our Mrs. Cutler, Michelle Cutler.
Good morning. I'm the clerk for the Licensing Subcommittee today.
Thank you. And also in the background, we have Democratic Services officers who are providing technical support to the meeting, but they don't take any part in the hearing. They're just there to make sure things run smoothly. So before I advise on procedure, I just need confirmation, please, that all persons who've given notice of their intention to speak have identified themselves. And any person who wishes to withdraw representation or wishes not to speak is also identified themselves. If nobody speaks, I will take that we are all content. Thank you. So item 7, we move to the proposed.
Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, Chair. Gareth Gosling here.
LB. Who's LB?
That's Louise. So Louise Busfield.
Oh, hello. I didn't. Louise,
Sorry.
you're very welcome. I didn't know you were attending with us. I wasn't advised. That's not a problem because you've just obviously not had notification that you're attending. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, Louise, please. Thank you. And you're in the room.
Indeed, Councillor Louise Busfield, Licensing Officer with Dorset Police.
Thank you very much, Louise. Are you wishing to speak, or will it be Sergeant Gosling?
We will both be speaking this morning, Councillor.
Okay, that's fine. So when we move to that part, I'll call on both of you to put forward your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we now move to the proposed procedure and order of speaking for the hearing. It will be as follows. The licensing officer will present the report, and then there'll be questions of all parties, the members going first on points of fact. The applicant will make their application and questions of the applicant by all party members going first. Responsible authorities will then make their representation. There are no other parties today, just responsible authorities. There'll be questions of the responsible authorities with members going first, and then all parties will be given an opportunity to sum up with the party who spoke last to go first. The hearing will then conclude and the subcommittee will deliberate in private with the legal advisor and clerk present. Notification of subcommittee's decision will be given within the period of 5 working days, beginning with the day of the last day on which the hearing was held in accordance with the regulations, which is today. And the notification decision will include information about the right of appeal as appropriate. And of course, I shall be asking for information with regard to the right of appeal from the legal officer who will give it at that time. So I'll now ask all parties to confirm agreement on the proposed procedure, or if you're not happy, or if there's anything else you need to know, want support, please let me know, or make representations. So Sarah Rogers, are you content?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sergeant Gosling, are you content?
On behalf of myself and Louise, yes, we're content.
Yes, I was going to say Louise next, but I will take it as 2. Thank you. And Mr. Day, are you content?
I am, and I'm also content on behalf of Mr. Cockerbay.
Indeed, thank you very much. And Mrs. McNamara, are you content?
Yes, Chair, thank you.
Thank you. So finally, item 8, may I remind all parties, because we have a few in the room today speaking, not to repeat the information which they've already given in writing, but to expand on the written representations. And all questions must be asked through the chair, and there'll be no cross-examination of parties. So with all that said, and everybody's content and in place, I will go to item 9, and I will ask our licensing officer, Sarah Rogers, to present her report. Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Are you with us, Sarah?
I am, sorry, I couldn't unmute. Okay, so this application is made by Dorset Police for a review of the premises licence for Southbourne Sports Club under Section 51 of the Licensing Act on the grounds that they...
Sarah, sorry.
Yeah.
I've got a really, it's not your fault, but I've got a really, really bad, the volume is really poor. Can you speak very slowly, please? And can you just raise your voice? Because I think people are having difficulty hearing you. Is that okay?
Yeah, okay, is that better?
Yes, your best Sir John Gielgud for us, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Chair, can I just, sorry, Chair, Gareth Gosling here. Can I just suggest that Mr. Cockerbay go on mute? Because I think we're getting some feedback.
Yes, if Mr. Cockerbay would please, in fact, if everybody would mute, please, I don't have control, but if everybody could mute, obviously not myself, but if everybody else will mute, that'll certainly help. Thank you. Thank you, Sergeant Gosling, that's really helpful. Sarah, are you okay now to start?
Yeah.
Please start from the beginning. Thank you. Very loud if you can, please, and slowly. Thank you.
Okay. Application has been made by Dorset Police for a review of the premises licence under Section 51 of the Licensing Act on the grounds that they believe the premises are not upholding the Prevention of Crime and Disorder and public safety licensing objectives. This is the second review of these premises by Dorset Police, the first being heard by the subcommittee on the October 2021. At that time, following consideration of the information provided, it was decided to impose 5 further conditions. Following visits to the premises by the police, concerns were raised that the premises were unable to make necessary improvements to ensure the compliance, and there was a clear indication of mismanagement. As a result, this review application was lodged. During the consultation period, mediation has been successful between Mr. Day, acting on behalf of the licence, and Dorset Police, and a copy of the email thread has been distributed to you prior to this hearing. It is requested that careful consideration be given to that agreement when you reach your decision following today's hearing. Members are reminded that powers exercised by them must be necessary and appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives and directed at the causes of concern once these have been established following this hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cockabay, do you have your microphone muted, please? We're still getting a squeak. Can you make sure it's muted? Right, it's muted now. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Mrs. Rogers, for that. Can I just have clarification, please, that everybody has received copies? I'm sure they have, because I know that our clerk sent them with regard to the mediation notes of the 17th of February, 25th of February and 28th of February between Sergeant Gosling and Mr. Day. Everybody, if you haven't had them, shout. Clearly everybody has. That's fine. Thank you very much. So are there any questions, members, Councillor Bagwell, Councillor Kelsey, on points of fact for Mrs. Rogers with regard to her report? Councillor Kelsey?
No, none for me. Thanks, Chair.
No.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Bagwell?
Nor me.
Okay, thank you very much then. Mr. Day?
Sorry,
Mr. Day, do you have any questions on points of fact of Mrs. Rogers' report?
No, ma'am.
Thank you very much. And Sergeant Gosling, do you have any questions for Mrs. Rogers on points of fact with regard to her report?
Nothing from myself or Louise on points of fact.
Thank you. You know, speaking as two, that's very kind of you. Okay, many thanks for that. Then on to our applicant then, and representative for our applicant, Mr. Cockabay, is Mr. Day, as we know. So, Mr. Day, you have the floor. Thank you.
Ma'am, with respect, I'm not the applicant. Sergeant Gosling is. This is a review hearing.
Oh, thank you so much. You're absolutely right. I've jumped one. Thank you, Sergeant Gosling.
I'll hand over to Louise, if that's okay, for the opening part.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Busfield. When you're ready.
Thank you very much, Council Chair. Okay, so it is, and it always has been, the intention of the Dorset Police Drug and Alcohol Harm Reduction Team to engage and support licensees throughout Dorset to promote the 4 licensing objectives, which we all know is prevention of crime and disorder, prevention of public nuisance, promotion of public safety, and the protection of children from harm. It is our expectation that all licensees will endeavour to meet these objectives and fulfil their duties as licensees, with the responsibilities to uphold these objectives and meet the conditions of their premises licence. Our team follows a structure in which we undertake to provide support and engagement in an effort to achieve improvement within licensed premises. And this is very much a collaborative approach in order to achieve efficient improvement. And wherever possible, and I do reiterate this, wherever possible, we avoid bringing concerns before the licensing subcommittee. However, this application for review has been made following what may appear to be a comparatively short period of support and engagement since the review hearing of the 28th of October 2021. The result of which Mr. Cockabay offered the subcommittee the assurances that his management and operation of the premises would improve. He would ensure he met compliance and he would comply with all conditions as per his premises licence, in addition to the 5 further conditions that were agreed and imposed as a result of this review. It is therefore really disappointing that subsequent visits to the premises evidenced continued and not insignificant breaches of the conditions of the premises licence. And even despite a further concerted period of engagement and support, Mr. Kokabe has still appeared to be either unwilling or unable to comply with the conditions of his premises license and promote the licensing objectives. I won't go into any of the breaches, the specific breaches and the concerns which we evidenced as a result of these visits, as they're all contained within the premises license. But I will refer to subsequent conversations with Mr. Kokabe, in which he has told me off the record that really he's not cut out to run a snooker club and he was seeking to sell the premises. So I think that's where we're at. You've all received the email detailing mediation that we have had engaged in with Mr. Day and Mr. Kokabe prior to this hearing. And I'd like to hand over to Sergeant Gosling, if I may, just to elaborate on the mediation which we have engaged in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Busfield. Yes, Sergeant Gosling, thank you.
So, Chair, so in order to try and reach an agreement that both met our needs and I think as well understood the needs of Mr. Kokabe and tried to meet somewhere in the middle, if you like, and to help yourselves out rather than giving you the task of trying to come up with a solution. I've engaged a great deal with Mr. Day, who I'm really grateful for his support in trying to reach an outcome to this. And you'll see from the correspondence that we've really listened to Mr. Kokabe, listened to his concerns. He does have challenges in operating the premises, and he's been really candid and honest with that. And the solution that's put forward for your consideration is that the decision or that we invite you to make the decision to remove Mr. Kokabe as the DPS with the condition as detailed. So I won't sort of spell it out, but the detail is it has been agreed in the correspondence, basically to ensure that we can have the confidence going forward that Mr. Kokabe will not be involved in the alcohol provision at this premises, but also allows Mr. Kokabe to continue and survive through this difficult period whilst he tries to find a suitable buyer for the premises. And I think what's really key to this, and perhaps hasn't been detailed a great deal in the correspondence, is that throughout this engagement we are always focused on the local residents, and they've been the driver behind this from the start. And having received concerns from them, we are duty bound, of course, to follow up on them. And you should be aware, whilst considering the proposal that's been agreed, if you like, between myself and Mr. Day, that they are very happy with that agreement that's been reached. So they would indeed welcome that outcome if you saw it fit to do so. The only concern I think they have is that Mr. Kokabe would continue to operate otherwise in accordance with what's been or what what is agreed. But we have reassured them that, as we have always done, we will continue to work with him and monitor the situation closely to ensure compliance. So I don't intend to go on a great deal any further than that, but invite any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Sergeant Gosling. So, members, any questions? Councillor Kelsey?
No, I'm having worked with Sergeant Gosling for many, many years. I'm quite content with what himself and Mr. Day have come up with here. I think it's a perfectly reasonable and feasible solution to the problem that we have in front of us today.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kelsey. Councillor Bagwell?
I agree with Councillor Kelsey.
Indeed, as do I. And I think that just for the record, I'd like it noted, please, a vote of thanks, I think, from the subcommittee to the residents who have given their considerable time and input with regard to assisting with regard to this matter. We're extremely grateful to them. It's not easy in these matters. There's always two sides to every story, and they have been extremely helpful. So if that could be noted, please, in the minutes. Thank you. So it just remains for me then to ask Mrs. Rogers, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, I don't. I'm happy with the agreement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So moving on now to you, Mr. Day, on behalf of Southbound Sports Club. You have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am. I'm going to be brief. I'm not going to go through all of the various allegations and detail what happened, etc. It would, in the circumstances, just take up your time unnecessarily. I note what's said with regard to the neighbours. I do have a continuing concern at the number of CCTV cameras in that locality that apparently do not comply with regulations in that they do not monitor private property belonging to the owners of the cameras, but the entire neighbourhood. But that's another matter that shouldn't concern you today. To put the matter in context, the position is this. Mr. Cockabay, as Ms. Busfield commented, has been looking to get out of this business for a little while. When this review was brought about, there were 2 or 3 people who were interested in taking on the club. But the minute that they saw that there was a review application and that the police were seeking revocation of the licence, they walked away. And not surprisingly, we, being entirely pragmatic about it, recognised that there was a serious risk that you might decide to revoke the licence unless we could come up with something else. Had that, or were that the decision today, then we would have no alternative but to appeal that decision, if only to allow the premises to continue trading until the outcome of the appeal, in the hope that during that period that there would be no further issues, and that the appeal might be successful. That obviously is not an outcome that either the police or the neighbours would welcome, and I suspect it's not one that you would welcome either. So what we have here is, as Sergeant Gosling has said, a compromise. I'll make 2 further observations. In terms of continuing to trade during the 21 days following the decision, the fact of the matter is that the premises were badly damaged during the recent storms. Part of the ceiling has collapsed. There is not insignificant damage to the roof. There has been significant water ingress, particularly over the part of the premises where all of the snooker tables are, which effectively has made them unusable. I won't comment too much publicly. Suffice it to say that there is a dispute with the owner of the property, whose responsibility is to maintain the fabric of it, and Mr. Cockabay is still waiting for insurance assessors to come along and sort out the problem. The good news, as far as he's concerned, is that he does have a serious buyer lined up who is prepared to take on this business and in hopefully early course seek a transfer of the licence. I can assure you that this person has no connection whatsoever with Mr. Cockabay or his immediate family, but as and when the agreement is concluded, details obviously will be made known to the police, whom I have no doubt will carry out their own inquiries, investigations to satisfy themselves that that is the case. So on that basis, ma'am, if you are content to endorse the agreement that has been reached between the police and myself on behalf of Mr. Cockabay, I wouldn't say anything else. Other than it is, of course, a matter entirely for this committee, or subcommittee rather. You do not have to do as we bid, but in all of the circumstances, I invite you to accept this proposal for the reasons I've already mentioned. If you feel that that is not appropriate, and that you're considering some other more serious course of action, then what I would ask, as indicated in the exchange of emails, is that you adjourn today so that I can put before you a great deal more information dealing with the specific allegations, etc. I hadn't done that for today, not out of discourtesy to this committee, but because I didn't want to inundate you with paper unnecessarily, or to run up a huge legal bill as far as Mr. Cockabay is concerned, at a time when he can really very ill afford it. So, ma'am, unless you have any questions or whatever, that is all that I would intend to say this morning with regard to this application.
Thank you, Mr. Day. And Mr. Cockabay doesn't wish to add anything?
No, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So, members, Councillor Kelsey, any questions?
No, none at all. As I said earlier, Chair, I think between Mr. Day and Gareth Gosling, they've come up with a really good solution. Had that solution not been come forward, then I think revocation may well have been on my mind. But as Mr. Day quite rightly says, we don't need to go down that route because we have a very, solutionable solution to this today. So I'm happy with what's been said so far. Thank
you, Councillor Kelsey. Councillor Bagwell?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
You concur. Okay.
Yes.
I do have just some points of clarification, really. The 21-day period. Obviously, there is a 21-day period when the premises would remain viable, but you're saying that the premise is not viable, so it can't be used at this moment, Mr. Day. Health and safety, landlord issues, unusable water ingress, damage. Is the premise actually usable for the purpose of transacting business?
Part of it is yes, ma'am. If you're familiar with the premises, they are quite long. You enter from the front, and as you come in, the bar is immediately to the right, and then the snooker tables take up probably at least 2/3 of the area towards the rear of the premises. The damage is principally over the snooker table area and not over the bar. Of course, people come there to play snooker. Well, they won't be able to come there to play snooker. But yes, the bar can still open and has been open, but the number of people in there, obviously, it's never been a particular popular place or profitable, and it's never enjoyed a great many customers, and of course, with the state that it's in at the moment, even fewer.
Okay. Now, thank you very much, Mr. Day. In the email on the 17th of February from Sergeant Gosling to your good self, or to Lacey's, I noticed you. Penultimate paragraph speaks of issues around this 21-day period preceding the hearing, succeeding the hearing. And it says, my understanding is this cannot be avoided. However, Mr. Cockabay should be reminded that Dorset Police will continue to closely monitor the premises during this period, regardless of the decision of the subcommittee. And we expect that the conditions of the licence and the licensing objectives will be consistently met and promoted during this period. Failure to do so will result in further urgent action being taken. So can we materially rely on that, Mr. Day?
I have little doubt that the police will continue to keep a very close eye on these premises. It is, of course, a criminal offence to provide any licensable activity otherwise than in accordance with the conditions of the licence. And if there were serious matters arising, then there is the power to seek a summary review. At very, very, very short notice. Indeed, I've had occasions, and I know that some of your councillor colleagues, ma'am, have also been involved in these, where summary review proceedings have literally been brought within hours, and licences immediately suspended. The present circumstances, I'm sure Sergeant Gosling would agree, were not such that a summary review application could lawfully have been brought. I don't think any superintendent would have been content to sign off the relevant certificate. The law is the law. There is that 21-day period. There is nothing anybody can do about it. That's set in the tablet of stone known as the Licensing Act 2003.
Indeed. I just wanted your confirmation that Mr. Cockabay understood that, Mr. Day. Thank you.
We have had lengthy discussions, Mark.
I'm absolutely certain you have. And yes, all three of us with our longevity over licensing have all dealt with summary reviews, unpleasant articles, but obviously need addressing when they appear. Thank you very much for that confirmation. So with that said, I'll ask Sergeant Gosling and Louise Busfield, do you have any questions for Mr. Day with regard to the issue? Thank you.
I certainly don't, Chair. Thank you very much, but I won't speak on behalf of Louise in case she's got anything to ask.
Ms. Busfield, do you have any?
No, thank you, Chair. No further
Okay,
questions.
thank you very much. And for completeness, our licensing officer, Mrs. Rogers, do you have any questions?
No, will it be from immediate effect?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't know if that was a statement or a question.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Not waiting. Is it from now or waiting until it's confirmed in writing by a notice of decision?
Well, there's 21 days. However the process works within the 21-day period, it's from that period, Louise. Okay. Right. So that said, unless for absolute legal completeness, we ask our legal officer, Mrs. McNamara, to come in to confirm that, I think, for completeness, as we are of public record. Mrs. McNamara, could you do so, please?
Thank you, Chair. We've discussed the appeal process. So there is an appeal process and that starts 21 days from the date the decision's given in writing.
Thank you.
It's writing.
Thank you very much. Yep, that's fine. Thank you for confirmation on that. Are you content, Mrs. Rogers, now?
Yes, it was more of a question of, regardless of the 21-day period, will the DPS be removed anyway with immediate effect?
And again, for completeness, I will ask our legal officer to answer that question for you. Mrs. McNamara?
It's my understanding that will be the position, but that is appealable within 21 days.
Yes,
that was my understanding.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, the crux we have is the 21 days from the written decision period. Yes. But we've already got an undertaking from Mr. Day that Mr. Cockabee is perfectly aware as to how he needs to conduct himself during that period. Mr. Day, you had your hand up. Did you wish to speak?
Yeah, I think we're getting slightly at cross purposes. You make the decision, and it doesn't matter what your decision is, it will not take effect until the end of the 21-day period.
Indeed.
So, for example, and it's not the case, had one of the residents made representations and felt that this agreement was inappropriate and that they wanted the licence revoked, then they could have appealed within 21 days of you making the decision, and then it would not have taken effect until an appeal was disposed of. In this situation, the only parties, effectively the police and myself on behalf of Mr. Cockabee, we have no intention of appealing if you endorse the agreement that has come about, and therefore in 21 days from when the email is received with your written decision, then Mr. Cockabee will cease to be DPS, etc. There is a possibility, and I put it no higher than that within that period, the disposal of the property will complete, and that there would be a transfer of the licence and the appointment of a new DPS, which would solve the problem in any event. I suspect that in this case, it will not take very long to produce a written decision, but that's a matter for you, ma'am, and your officers and colleagues.
Indeed, we have 5 working days in order to deal with that, and thank you for your reiteration with regard to that point. But I think we're all perfectly clear now as to where we stand with regards to that particular issue. Thank you very much. I have Joanne's hand up. Thank you, Ms. McNamara.
Thank you, Chair. It's just to reiterate what the guidance says really on that point, and just to
Thank
make
you.
it really clear. So at 12.33 of the guidance, it says the decision of the licensing authority following the review hearing will not have effect until the end of the period allowed for appeal or until disposal of that appeal.
Yep.
I think that's
Thank you,
it
and
totally.
thank you for that clarification in the public domain. I think that's crystal clear now. Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Day, also for your reiteration of that point. So I think I've been through all questions. We now move to all parties will be given the opportunity to sum up, and we will start with either Ms. Busfield or Sergeant Gosling, either or. You have the floor.
From Sergeant Gosling here. I've got nothing further to add, Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And Mrs. Busfield?
No, likewise, I concur with Sergeant Gosling.
Thank you. And Mr. Day?
And I also concur with Sergeant Gosling. Thank you.
Oh, the concurring is music to our ears. And last but by no means least, Mrs. Rogers.
I also concur.
Thank you very much indeed. So with all that said then, I think we've had an ample opportunity to ask the questions we want and had clarification on the points of law, which has been extremely useful. We are at point 10 and I will now conclude the hearing. So the subcommittee will now adjourn in private with our legal advisor, Mrs. McNamara, and our clerk, Michelle Cutler, to deliberate. Notification of the subcommittee's decision will be provided within the period of 5 working days, beginning with the day or the last day on which the hearing was held in accordance with the regulations, which is today. The notification decision will include information about the right of appeal as appropriate, and I'll ask our legal advisor, Mrs. McNamara, to explain that right of appeal now, please, to all parties. Thank you, Mrs. McNamara.
Thank you, Chair. Just to reconfirm that there's a right of appeal against any decision the licensing subcommittee makes today, and that appeal process is 21 days from notification in writing, and it's an appeal to the Magistrates' Court.
Thank you very much. So to all parties, thank you very much for your attendance. The subcommittee and our legal advisor and our clerk will now adjourn, and I believe we'll be starting in new meeting rooms. So I will ask for a close to the meeting. Thank you, Richard. Thank you very much. Good everybody, and good morning.